Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm George Rice. I'm Executive Director for the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials International, APCO. On behalf of all the member associations of the Public Safety Alliance, thank you for coming out on this very hot day as we call attention to our nation's first responders' need for a truly interoperable nationwide public safety broadband network. Shortly, you will hear from key members of Congress and public safety leaders who will describe to you how critical it is that our nation's police, sheriffs, firefighters, emergency medical service providers, emergency managers, and communications professionals have the tools they need to communicate and share information both during everyday and catastrophic events. And certainly we would not be here today if not for the support and leadership of members of Congress, to whom we all are indebted for the progress we've made thus far. It is indeed an honor to have here today Senator Joseph Lieberman, Chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, and Senator John McCain, Ranking Member, Subcommittee on Federal Financial Management, Government Information, Federal Services, and International Security of the Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs. Senators?
Thank you very much. Senator McCain, thank you for deferring to me. It so rarely happens. Really appreciate it. I'm proud to be here with John, my dear friend, and with all of you to talk about what I think is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build a coast-to-coast communications network for our nation's first responders that is secure, robust, and resilient. And we're going to do that by giving them the special bandwidth they need to communicate effectively in an emergency. As it stands now, the mobile device the average teenager in America carries has more capability than the mobile device the average first responder in America, who puts his or her life on the line every day for each of us, carries. And that is just unacceptable and wrong. We're here to turn that around. Earlier today, I'm very happy to report to you that Senator McCain and I introduced legislation in the Senate to set aside the so-called D block of the radio spectrum for public safety departments. I want to tell you, I thank you for that, and I tell you how proud I am to stand here with the representatives of more than 40 organizations of public safety officials, with the big 7 associations representing state and local governments, to call on our colleagues in Congress to put the D block in the hands of public safety. Today, public safety communicates on slices of scattered spectrum that prevent interoperable communications and hinder data transmission. Securing the D block for public safety will allow us to build a nationwide interoperable network for emergency communications that can prevent the kinds of meltdowns in communications that occurred on 9/11 and during Hurricane Katrina. But setting aside the D block will also allow first responders to send video, maps, and other large data transmissions over their mobile devices. And just to take this example of what can happen, firefighters' lives can be saved because they will be able to access building specs on their handhelds and know all the exits before they go into a burning building. That's a lifesaver. I don't think it's wise, as the FCC has proposed, to auction the D block to commercial interests and then hope that public safety will be able to piggyback on it. In a crisis, we want our first responders to come first, to know that they have secure, reliable, and quick communications that will never be disrupted by commercial traffic. So thanks to our colleagues in the House, Peter King and Yvette Clark, for leading the way and introducing companion legislation, which Senator, let's give them a round of applause. They were out front. And again, thanks to all the public safety groups, really a remarkable range of groups represented here today, for the work that you and your members do day in and day out to keep America safe. I'm pleased and proud to work together with you on this bill, and I believe we are going to be successful. My honor now to present, he was enlisted by his Homeland Security. He's a former chairman of the Commerce Committee, to which this bill will go. He's the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, truly a great and patriotic American, Senator John McCain of Arizona.
Thank you very much, Joe, and I want to thank the fire chiefs, the police chiefs, the sheriffs. There's so many organizations that are represented here today, and I'm always humbled and grateful to be in the company of America's heroes who are behind me. And this effort is to provide them, their officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, with the communications network necessary to protect all of our citizens and those who need it every day. After the terrible attack of 9/11, Joe Lieberman and I got together and proposed legislation that established the 9/11 Commission. We're proud of that commission and we're proud of their work. And one of the major recommendations was by the 9/11 Commission that, quote, that the expedited and increased assignment of radio spectrum to public safety entities, unquote. Now, literally every recommendation of the 9/11 Commission, with the exception of that one, has been implemented in one way or another by the federal government or by legislation, and it's outrageous. To this day, federal and local agencies are unable to communicate with each other in the matter of national emergencies. How many lives would have been saved if those brave firefighters on 9/11 had been able to communicate with the other services that were being provided and were coming to the aid of their fellow citizens in danger? Just a short time ago, when a rancher in southern Arizona was murdered, Rob Krentz, Sheriff Larry Deaver of Cochise County will tell you that they were unable to communicate with the federal authorities in coordination so that they could track down their murderers or murderer as they fled across the border into Mexico. How many times do we have to see the inability to respond hampered by the influence of special interests? And I'll give you some straight talk, by the broadcasters. We need to give them this spectrum. Public spectrum, years ago we introduced such legislation, and 10 megahertz of spectrum still remains available for public safety needs. Now, if this spectrum is auctioned, if this remaining spectrum is auctioned, we will not get it back, and that's a fact, and that's why we have to act now. This legislation would license the remaining spectrum to the public safety broadband licensee that has been previously approved by the FCC as a qualified licensee and represents 38 national public safety organizations. The legislation provides authority to local jurisdictions to make decisions on the spectrum use, network build-out and equipment, and the men and women fighting crime and saving lives know what communication systems and technology are best for them, not for Washington. And by the way, funds to pay for this will come from spectrum auction. It will not be in increases in taxes on the American people and not add to our budget deficit. We approach the 10th anniversary of the horrific events of 9/11 and the 5-year anniversary of the devastating tragedy of Hurricane Katrina. It's disgraceful that police officers, sheriffs, and firefighters still don't have a nationwide interoperable communication system. The bill provides spectrum and funding to its first responders. That is a national emergency and continues to be, in my view. Let's complete the work of the 9/11 Commission. Let's implement every one of its recommendations, and let's get this spectrum to where it can be put to the best use, and that is the security and safety of all of our citizens. And again, I want to thank my heroes who are arrayed behind us. Thank you.
Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia, who is chairman of the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, couldn't be with us, but did issue a release earlier, and I'd like to read a part of that release today to give you an idea of where he stands on the issue as well. Radio spectrum is a very valuable resource. It can grow our economy and put new and innovative wireless services in the hands of consumers and businesses. It can enhance our public safety by fostering communications between first responders when the unthinkable occurs. But it is also scarce. That is why we need forward-thinking spectrum policy that promotes smart use of airwaves and provides public safety officials with the wireless resources they need to keep us safe. For these reasons, I plan to introduce the Public Safety Spectrum and Wireless Innovation Act. This legislation will build on the policies of a recent presidential memorandum unleashing the wireless broadband revolution by providing the Federal Communications Commission with authority to hold incentive auctions. My legislation will help put this valuable resource into the hands of companies that consumers and businesses, for the American people, can help. This proposal will not require the return of spectrum for existing commercial uses, but will instead provide them with a voluntary opportunity to realize a portion of auction revenues if they wish to facilitate putting spectrum in new and productive uses. The Public Safety Spectrum and Wireless Innovation Act will also provide public safety with an additional 10 megahertz of spectrum to support a national interoperable wireless broadband network that will help protect spectrum allocation, help protect people from harm in the future. This spectrum allocation will provide those who wear the shield with resources they need to do their jobs. But more than that, by providing authority for incentive auctions, this legislation will offer a revenue stream to assist public safety with the construction and development of their network. The American people deserve to have the best and most innovative uses of wireless networks anywhere, and they deserve to know our first responders have access to the airwaves they need when tragedy strikes. I am proud to say my legislation will do just that. Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia. It is indeed now my honor to introduce one by one the members representing the Public Safety Alliance, beginning with the Major Cities Chiefs Association, represented by President Rob Davis, Chief of Police, San Jose, California.
Thank you for being here today. You know, Senator McCain mentioned up here that we are his heroes. He pointed to us standing behind him, but I can assure you that those of us standing behind him look to him and Senator Lieberman and Senator Rockefeller as being our heroes today. Believe me, we've had a long fight to try and get to this point, and we're so very grateful for the support that we have received from them. We're also very grateful to the congressional representatives, Peter King in New York, and also Yvette Clark, who helped get the HR 5081 on board that would also push this. And we understand now, I think we just recently learned that we've got now 55 people who have signed on in the House to support HR 5081, and that's great news. Understand that from our perspective, this is not about us in terms of public safety being against anybody, being against the FCC or anybody else. What we are for, however, is for the American people and public safety. That's why we're here. That's why this is this important to us. What we're really talking about here, even though we're almost 9 years from 9/11, is simply the ability of public safety to be able to communicate with each other when there's a disaster or a terrorist incident. We have to be able to communicate with each other. We're concerned with some of the proposals that have been mentioned already by the FCC and others, in which it suggested that we'll be able to work with the commercial sector, and if and when we need to be able to get access to that broadband spectrum, then we can do it in an emergency. We'll get priority. But we have all individually experienced failures of that in our own jurisdictions. In California, example, we've had numerous earthquakes where as soon as we try and respond and determine what resources we need to put out in the field to respond to those earthquakes, we can't communicate so much on a cell phone because everybody's trying to communicate with their aunt or their uncle, wherever they are in Kansas or Nebraska or wherever, to tell them they've just been through an earthquake. We get dropped off. This is unacceptable in terms of public safety. That's why this is so important to us. We also know that we need to technologically look forward into the future. We need to be able to get our data across those lines so we can share information, criminal information, back and forth with our federal, state, and local partners so that we can communicate with each other to try and prevent some of these incidents in the future. The bottom line is this: we totally and completely respect the ability of our commercial partners out there to do what it is they need to do to try and get commercial systems up and about. But as we have said before, while it is important that people can text their vote to American Idol, it's more important that police and fire and others can communicate with each other when there's a disaster. That's what this is about. It's about American public safety. We're talking about a small sliver of spectrum in that radio frequency world out there to try and help us. And America deserves that, especially since it's been almost 9 years since 9/11. So thank you for the support, and I'm very, very grateful for the support of all these different associations behind us. It is extremely rare, in fact, this is historic, to see police and firefighters standing next to each other like this, pushing one single issue. I've been very grateful for that, and my partner, thank you. In fact, I believe you'll introduce Jeff, and I'm very grateful for our partners in the fire associations for the support that they've given us too. So thank you very much.
From the International Association of Fire Chiefs, President Jeff Johnson, Fire Chief, Tualatin Valley, Oregon Fire and Rescue.
Good afternoon. When I think of public safety, I think first about our brothers and sisters in the armed services. And when I think about this topic, I think that few in our nation would question why they need dedicated spectrum to communicate. I think few in this nation would think it's logical for a company commander to call the battalion commander in a firefight on a cell phone when the line becomes available. The reality is, however, is that inside the borders of this nation, it's the police officers, the firefighters, the emergency managers, the emergency medical technicians. We're the people that defend this nation inside our borders. We are the domestic defenders, and likewise, we need dedicated spectrum. We can't wait in line. Your lives and the lives of people that you love and care about depend that we can communicate, that we have the digital tools to do our job, and it is entirely necessary that we have an allocated spectrum that's adequate not only for today, but for the future. I would just like to thank you for being here to support us. It has been a long road, and I think the need to talk is clear to everyone here. And as a firefighter, I can tell you, in a major event, we need to talk to police officers. We don't want to, but we need to. And this will afford us what we need to do, not what we'd like to do. Thank
You'll notice in the order we're going back and forth between police and fire. Now, from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Vice President Mark Marshall, Chief of Police, Smithfield, Virginia.
Good afternoon, and Jeff, thank you for turning the heat up on us. My name is Mark Marshall. My paying job is the Chief of Police in Smithfield, Virginia. Like a small town in Hampton Roads, got situated in the Hampton Roads area. Small town that's surrounded by 2 million people. Like many of our law enforcement organizations across this country, I have big city problems without the big city resources. I represent, I'm the Vice President of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. It's 22,000 members strong. We represent law enforcement command staff across this country in 100 different countries. But I will tell you, the majority of our membership is comprised of small and medium agencies. That's why this spectrum is so important. This bandwidth is so important. I certainly applaud Senators McCain, Lieberman, Rockefeller, Congressman King, and all the other patrons that signed on. Thank you for finally getting it. It's extremely important that we have this. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about us. This is about public safety. It's a very rare event indeed when you have all these public safety executives representing communications, fire, law enforcement. Normally, when we're in a group like this, talking with you, it usually means that we've had a significant event. More often than not, it's a bad event. But today is a great day. Today is a great day because we are finally making some progress to have that platform for us to be able to communicate effectively with one another. Ladies and gentlemen, We must be able to have the ability to be able to keep our hometown secure. If we're unable to keep our hometown secure, we will never keep the homeland safe. Again, this is a great day. We continue to march on, and now we got to do it. We got to stop talking about it and let's start doing it. So congratulations to all the people that have been involved in this process, and now let's get the real work done.
From the Metropolitan Fire Chiefs Association, President Gregory Frederick, Chief, Louisville, Kentucky Fire and Rescue.
Metropolitan fire departments protect 80% of the population of this nation in cities and counties. And on behalf of the Metropolitan Fire Chiefs, I want to thank this group that's come together, this alliance, in order to make sure that we have the tools that we need to be able to do our jobs. From a single fire truck responding to a medical emergency to a complex incident that involves multiple agencies, multiple jurisdictions. We need to have a robust voice and data communications network in order for our responders to be able to do their job in today's world. So I want to thank Senator Lieberman, Senator McCain, and Senator Rockefeller for their sponsorship in this legislation, and also once again thank everyone that's come together to make sure that this effort moves forward. Thank you.
From the National Sheriff's Association, First Vice President Paul Fitzgerald, Sheriff, Story County, Iowa.
Thank you, George. I'd also like to thank everyone for coming. This has been a long road, it seems, that us and the first responder community have been on, trying to acquire the D block to join with the public safety spectrum to give us the adequate spectrum in order for us to communicate. Whether it's law enforcement, fire, EMS, or other first responders that are at any scene, the ability to communicate is an absolute must. For our first responders to better protect the public we serve, we will better be able to do that when we have appropriate communications. Currently, the way it stands in many districts, whether it's border to border or coast to coast, what we see is law enforcement, fire, and EMS, if they're to talk, they must speak on various different radio sets that they have in their vehicle or on their waistband. Time has come to pass from that day. When I began in law enforcement 34 years ago, I put on my radio as part of my duty belt when I went out on the street. Today, when I go out, it's the exact same thing. We've come to the Capitol today to ask Congress to please support us in allocating the D block to public safety. So 34 years from now, we can communicate in the way we need to be the most productive and the most effective we can to protect the citizens. I also want to thank the members of Congress, Peter King, and all the co-sponsors in Congress who are joining us in supporting the D block. Also Lieberman and McCain senators who are sponsoring this, and Senator Rockefeller, as far as helping us get the momentum. And Congress is the one that needs to take control now and give us the ability to move forward with this spectrum. Thank you very much.
From the National Emergency Management Association, John Gibb, Director of the State of New York Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services.
Good afternoon. As a state emergency manager, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with these great public safety organizations. And this has been a unifying issue, and the reason it's a unifying issue is because it's a simple request. The public safety community is asking for the necessary bandwidth that we need to build out the communication system that we need to take us into the future. I think all of us recognize that we're at a unique place in history. We're just very thankful that Congressman King, Congresswoman Clark from New York, Senator Lieberman, Senator McCain, Senator Rockefeller have stepped up to provide this necessary support. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my boss, Governor David Patterson from New York, who a couple weeks ago had the opportunity to be briefed by Chief Chuck Dow from the NYPD at the National Governors Association. And this is not only a local issue, it's a statewide issue. The emergency management level, We can't do our job unless our local public safety partners can do their job. This is the kind of communications enterprise that will link us together well into the future. Again, it's a great point in history to be making this charge, and very, very honored to be able to be included with the public safety community today. Thank you.
One of our partner associations in the Public Safety Alliance was not able to have a rep here with us today, but on behalf of the Major County Sheriff's Association, President Douglas Gillespie, Sheriff, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, sends greetings and support thanks as well. From the National Association of State EMS Officials, President-elect Randy Kirkendall, EMS Director, State of Colorado.
Thank you very much. It's a tremendous pleasure to be here this afternoon and to see the public safety community come together. My day job is the State EMS and Trauma Director for the state of Colorado, and on behalf of the 56 directors of EMS and trauma of our states and territories, I think it's important to also echo what you've already heard here today and how important our ability to communicate with each other is. But I think it's also important to understand that this spectrum and what it's going to do for the EMS community is allow us to access technology that is available that we have not been able to do, to put in the hands of our EMTs and paramedics in remote and rural locations, things such as portable ultrasound, portable diagnostic equipment, being able to transmit real-time pictures back to our facilities so that they are being read by physicians, and that our hospitals and our trauma centers have the ability to know and understand when multiple patients are coming their way, and we'll do a better job of getting the right patient to the right place at the right time. I want to thank the members of Congress that are supporting this effort. It makes so much sense, and we look forward to the passage of this legislation. Thank you very much.
And as our anchor, the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials, President Richard Murgon, IT Director, Douglas County, Nevada, retired.
Thank you, George. APCO represents 14,000 members who are telecommunicators, technicians, engineers, people who build and operate these systems that these folks depend on day to day. We understand the problem. We're the ones trying to keep it together for them and provide that interoperability. This is our best hope of solving that problem. This has been one of APCO's leading agenda items, to secure the D block and funding to help these folks out, because they're the ones doing the job. In that effort, we'd like to thank Congressman King, all the co-sponsors on the House side. We'd like to thank Senator Lieberman and Senator McCain, and we'd also like to thank Senator Rockefeller today for his announcement. This is all a great milestone for public safety today, but it is just that, just a milestone. We still have work to do here in DC. We still have people to educate, and we still have to get a little bit more movement to make this a reality and get a presidential signature. And with that, we will be back in DC at some point talking to more folks, moving this issue along. I'd like to thank our partners, as it was so stated here today. This is a very unique time in public safety where everybody has come together. And we thank them all for the support. We thank all the support we're getting here in DC.